Mr. Mark's Classroom, episode 130-ish. I don't know. I lost count. Well, I'm glad you're here today, Mr. Mark's Classroom. My name is Mark Jones, and I want to help you as children's ministry leaders to have clarity in your ministry and what you're doing. It seems like we're constantly bombarded with so much, but how do we know we're doing the right thing? How can we be putting our best foot forward? And today I have a great guest for you. You're in for a treat because I have one of the most creative men that I know. His name is James Hargrave. He is at Lifeway and has been investing in children's ministry for many years and seeing great things, how they have evolved and become even better. And so James, thank you so much for your time to be with us today.
Oh, happy to be here. This is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I just have to let everybody know we had the blessing of having James speak to our children's ministers, and we heard such great ideas. I was writing things so fast, like smoke was coming off my ink. It just was so refreshing to hear such good ideas, things that you can put in your toolbox, things that you can inspire your teachers with. And listen, this guy, he is the editor-in-chief of Children's Curriculum, and he knows how to make things done well. And I appreciate you so much, James. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks, Mark.
One of the things that I heard you say, and really in what we're going to talk about today, is how every child can be engaged. We've seen children come into our classes, and they sat down, and we're like, all right, let's have it. Entertain me, or just make this happen, get it over with. But really, that's not the way we want it to go. We want to engage them. We want to learn.
Well, you know, every teacher that has taught for any length of time at all has had one of those kids that you come in and they want to answer every question. Their hand is always up. Oh, let me. And they always know the answer. They're always right. Bless their hearts. We love them. It's great to have their kids.
And they're faithful.
And they're faithful. You know, they give tithing and all that kind of stuff. So we want them around. But we've also had that child that sits there in a class and never speaks, never talks up, always is just, and they're super quiet. They're not a problem. You know, they're just sitting there. And there's a part of me that is more disturbed by that child than by the child that is disruptive. At least he's engaging with something. You know, the kid that's sitting there just, I don't know what's going on. So it occurred to me that maybe it would be worthwhile to spend some time talking with folks about how do I solve both of those problems, maybe even at the same time.
Good.
Historically, we've had a model for ministry, or a model for teaching, pedagogy, teaching boys and girls that was something along the lines of, and I call it the beach ball model. I'm the teacher. So I say something, and then I invite one of the children to say something, to respond to me. And then I say something, and I throw the beach ball, if you will, to another child and allow him to respond. There was a point in time when the children, even or adults, would have stood when it was their turn to speak. But it was very much just back and forth. It's all about me, them saying things to me saying things to them, and them saying things. And, you know, the truth is, you learn how pretty early not to get the teachers, not to make eye contact with the teacher.
Don't get the ball.
That's right. Don't get the ball. And you know that there's Mark over there, and Mark's going to he knows all the answers. He's smarter than I am, and he wants to answer. I'm just going to let him do it. And so we have those kids. So the idea was, how do we get all of those kids to be engaged at the same time? There was a great book that came out a while back called Total Participation Techniques. Making every
Say that one more time.
Sorry. Total Participation Techniques. Making every student an active learner. It was put together by Presidia and William Himmel.
Okay.
Himmele. Now, I don't know Doctors Himmel and Himmel, but I liked what they had. As I read the book, it just kept hitting me over and over and over again. This is stuff that I do. It's stuff that I've done. It's stuff that you've done, and probably every teacher that's taught for a while has done. But they were being very intentional about it. They were being very intentional about pulling it together and making sure that you do those things. So a lot of their ideas, a lot of the things that I came across were not like, oh, wow, nobody's ever thought of that before. Well, you know, stuff we've all thought of before. But what I really appreciated was their emphasis on the intentionality of saying, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make sure that I do it in every session trying to engage every child every time that we're teaching. We talked when I had the conference with your folks, we talked about the idea that, typically kindergarten kids are engaged. They're doing stuff. They're here, they're there, they're all over. But especially as kids get older and older, they learn more and more of those social skills, if you will, or those classroom skills that allow them to just kind of sit back and be quiet and not say anything. So how do you know if those kids are thinking about what's going on, if they're thinking about something else? I used a story about a time when my wife, when someone was teaching.
Careful.
Yeah, I was teaching there with her too. But she was doing a large group time, and the kids are sitting there and she's telling the stories, and there's this one little boy, and I had noticed him, and he was just locked onto her and just like laser vision. And she's telling the story, and she gets to the end of group time or towards the end of group time, and he sits there, and finally he raises his hand, and she says, "Yes, what do you want? Or what would you like to ask?" And he said, this was a room that was used during the week for public school, for classroom. He raised his hand. Why does that A up above your head look like that? Blah, blah, blah. And it was like he had not heard a single word. He didn't know what was going on. He was worrying about those letters that were on the wall that they were using in the class during the week.
Right.
So, how do you know? Every adult does it. We're sitting there, we're smiling, we're nodding our head during the sermon. And how many of us are thinking about, I wonder if I left the oven on, did I do this?
Oh yeah, we're professionals at this.
We're professional. By the time we get grown, we know how to play the game. We all know how to move around, to fidget without being rude, without being caught. Nobody sits still. They're all moving. And we learn how to look like we're listening when really we're thinking about the Beatles. And what was the name of that? Was it when I'm 64 or was it when I'm 63? I can't remember. Maybe it was 65. I don't know. It was easier when I was younger. And now whatever it is, we've got all this stuff going on in our minds. Kids can be the same way. They start learning it pretty early. Mm-hmm. So the idea was, instead of this beach ball model where one kid at a time is responding, could there be a way for us to get all the kids up, active, engaged, doing stuff, demonstrating what they are learning or what they are having trouble learning?
Yeah, brilliant.
So that we can see what's going on with them. Now, I talked about the idea of kids as listening objects. And the truth is, that goes back to that model, that model of pedagogy that says, I am going to talk. I'm going to instill while you sit still, kind of thing. What happens, though, is that ultimately kids get bored. They drop out of school. They drop out of church. They quit coming. This isn't for me, blah, 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 blah. So what I
just wrestle with those behavior problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm bored, so I'm going to find something fun to do. Yeah. And what's that over there? I think I'll play with it.
Right.
And they don't even have to have stuff. They can play with stuff on our clothes. Little girls playing with tying their bows and untying their bows and tying their bows and untying their bows.
Right,
Kids playing with their Velcro or playing with their shoelaces or with their fidgets, all that kind of stuff.
True.
They do. It's all going on. So how do we get them engaged? How do we get them to participate in what's going on? So that's kind of like one of those things that we have always worried about, but we've never been as intentional as we could have been about. I suggested that one of the ways we've done that well, of course, is by the use of games. We do Bible learning activities. Some of those are better than others. Let's be honest about it.
True.
We talked about games, and we looked at games as an example. Are there better ways to do games even? Because games you'd think would get everybody engaged. Then we looked at a game that everybody learned when they were little, which is hot potato. Think about hot potato. You got 15 kids standing in a circle, and this potato that's going around, whether the potato is a sponge or a paper ball or a rubber ball or a wadded up, it's going around a circle. Well, a couple of things to note. Number one, when it's past me, it's got to go all the way around the circle before I have to worry about it again. In the meantime, I'm sitting here with nothing to do.
Right.
Secondly, if I get caught with the potato, I'm out of the game.
Hey.
That never made any sense to me at all. I'm working hard to get kids to play the games.
And they want out.
It's like, what is going on here? This isn't making sense. So we talked about, we did another game, which we couldn't possibly do here over the internet like this, but we did another game where everybody was involved. where everybody had to be doing something. And there are games like that. You know, there just are.
Yes, there are.
So if I were there, you and I could do one of those games together. But
Sure.
when we talk about, you know, how could we make that hot potato game a better game? Hot potato is not a bad game. It just needs to be improved. So we talked about some ideas, and some of the ideas that we generated, your folks generated, and I've used in the past, was the idea of, well, what if you had more than one ball? What if we had, like, we got 15 kids, but there's 5 balls, or there's 4 balls? And now, as soon as I pass one, there's another one coming. I've got to pay attention. I've got to stay engaged.
Yeah.
What if instead of being out of the game when the ball came to me, there was something I had to do or got to do?
Right.
Perhaps it's as simple as answering a question, and or telling something about myself, or talking about what happened last night, so that there's something like that going on. What if the balls were color coded? Each ball is a different color, and as they're going around, when the balls stop, I ask somebody that's holding a certain color to do something, or to say something. Well, nobody knows which color I'm going to call, so everybody's still involved in a game. So we talked about some of those kinds of things. All of those were ways to get kids more engaged and to do that. Now, the way we did that, the way we talked about those, was with a technique called Think, Pair, Share. Think, Pair, Share is one of the
pair,
share.
Okay.
Exactly. Think, pair, share.
Okay.
And it's one of those brilliant things. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? This is so simple. Yeah. You don't have to have, there's no preparation. There's nothing to do except to remember that you have this tool available to you. So anytime you're working with boys and girls and you want to re-engage them, you can use a pink. I have a pink. Use a think, pair, share. So this is the way it works. I'm going to ask you to think of what was, for example, we just did hot potato. I'm going to ask you to think, what do you think was wrong or right with that game? What did you like about it or not like about it? I want you to think for a moment. Now, with boys and girls especially, it is absolutely essential that we get into the habit of learning to give them a moment to process. Mm-hmm. We ask a question, and we ask it so fast, they're still trying to figure out what we said, and we're ready for the second answer for the third question.
Yeah.
We've got to slow down and let them think, because, of course, we teach them that if they respond slowly, we'll answer it for them. We won't even wait for their answer. We'll give them the answer. Mm-hmm. So we've got to stop. We've got to wait. I want you to think a moment. Then, after we've given them a moment to process what that is, and when they realize, and sometimes if it's a new group of kids with you, it may take them a time or two to realize, oh, he's serious. He's going to make me think about this, and we're going to have to do so. Okay. So I give them a moment to think. Then I say, find a partner. We're going to pair up. Find a partner. It could be 3. It could be a triad. Doesn't matter. But find a partner and share. Tell them what it was you thought was good or what it was you didn't like.
Good.
Now, versions of that. What I'll do is like we're doing a review game, and instead of doing a board game, we'll just do think, pair, share sometimes. All right, here, and I'll read a question. All right, I want you to think about what do you think the answer is. Got it? Stand up. Find a partner, tell them what you thought the answer was, and if you didn't know the answer, ask them what they thought the answer was. Sometimes I'll tell them.
It's safe.
It's great. It's totally safe. And frequently what I'll do is I'll say, go to 3 people, tell them what the answer to the question was, or if you don't know it, ask them what the answer was so that they can tell you. Well, think about what's going on here. I get a chance to repeat the information that I know, or I get a chance to find the information that I missed somehow.
Right.
And I get a chance to do that in a totally, totally safe environment. Plus, everybody has that opportunity. That kid that likes to answer every question, he gets to answer every question. And the kid that rarely knows the right answer, suddenly, after he's talked to the first kid, knows the right answer to give to the second and the third kid.
Right.
To me, it's just a brilliant tool. It's just
it is brilliant
thing to remember.
And you know, it really helps because you do have kids who are the smarty pants kids that
absolutely
know all the answers, and they blurt it out,
right?
And not letting anybody else even think about it.
Yeah.
They're so quick. I'll tell you one way that I've used that with my kindergartners that I teach is I'll ask a question and I'll say, now, which book is the book of the Bible after the book of Matthew? Whisper it in your hand when I say go. And they'll whisper it in their hand. And then I'll say, now let's all let it go at the same time. Mark.
Excellent.
And so everybody has a chance to answer at the same time.
Yeah, with older boys and girls, with first and second graders, I will frequently say, whisper the answer to your neighbor.
Yeah. Good.
And again, typically, if I'm seeing looks of little deer in the headlight kind of looks, I'll say, and if you don't know the answer, whisper to your neighbor that you're not sure and ask them to tell you, whisper in your ear what the answer is.
Yeah, good.
It kind of becomes a routine that it's really safe.
Good.
But that whispering thing allows everybody a chance to respond, and then I'll let somebody, and if it's the same kid every time, who cares? Because everybody's had a chance to answer. And
That's
it usually
right.
won't be.
That's right. Good.
Eric Jensen. So that's one real simple tool. It's probably the number one tool in my bucket. Is that I'm going to pull out is that one. Eric Jensen does talk about different kinds of engagement. And he talks about cognitive engagement, which is brain stuff. He talks about emotional engagement, which is really important. We want kids to feel that this is a safe place. We want to use things like suspense and drama and celebrations and surprise. All of that kind of stuff really has an impact on learning that's going on in the classroom. Yes. He talks about physical engagement, body stuff. Kids are the more we learn about how the brain works, the more we understand and realize.
Oh, and Eric Jensen.
Yeah.
Oh,
every bit of it.
Stuff. Yeah, good.
It's super important. It's important for your cognitive development, for your brain. But that physical stuff is tied directly to it. You have to get up. You have to be hydrated. You have to get blood flowing sometimes. Social engagement is just critical as well. Kids get bored if you do things the same way every time. I don't do think, pair, share every time. I do other stuff. I get bored doing the same thing. Yeah, of course. They do too. I'll add one to Jensen's, and that's spiritual engagement. Obviously, we're in that business. We want kids to engage. We're Christian educators. We're not just educators. So we want to take care of that spiritual aspect as well. Now, all of that together, I ask people to start thinking about a different kind of mindset. Start thinking, show me instead of listen to me. Show me what you're learning rather than listen to me tell you what you need to be learning.
Okay.
By having kids demonstrate their learning, which, again, we've done in the past. We've done it through activities, or at least we've intended for activities to accomplish that. Month-long projects and all that kind of stuff. The intention was they're going to demonstrate they're going to learn. They're going to show us what they've learned. Right. Well, I'm working on a tighter time frame these days. So I want them to do it right now. I want them to demonstrate actively what they are learning and that they are learning and that they are engaged in what's going on. So real quick, some tools that again, some of these you'll know, some of them you won't know. That's fine. You've probably used a good bunch of them and maybe not thought about it.
Well, this is a good time to write this down, my friends, because this is the toolbox right here.
This is it. Number one is think, pair, share, and it really is my number one. Now, these are called on-the-spot TPTs, total participation techniques.
It's easy for you to say.
It is. Well, it is when I've had my orange juice. Okay. So on the spot means I don't have to absolutely no preparation or just a very tiny bit of preparation. Very, very little in terms of preparation. The second one is think, pair, share. Obviously, I don't have to have anything. I can just pull it out of my pocket. Quick writes. Now, with older boys and girls especially, but even with some younger boys and girls, I can ask them to write down an answer. They can have a piece of paper. Instead of telling me, write it down. It's like a quiz. Yeah. But one of the things that research tells us is that quizzes are one of the best ways that people learn in terms of effectiveness. There's a new book called Better Learning. And in Better Learning, the author sets about debunking a whole bunch of the myths about learning and what learning works and what doesn't. There's a lot of things out there that people think are true that, the research says it's really not. It sounds good, but it doesn't really work. So anyway, one of the things he talks about is the idea that we need to make sure that stuff really is doing what we think it's doing. But quick writes. Having kids write out an answer is one thing. Having them draw quick draws, having them draw an answer. Yeah. So, for example, I can talk about Miriam and Moses and Pharaoh is the story. And they can draw a picture of a baby. They could draw a picture of a princess. They could draw a picture of a little girl. Instead of saying an answer, they could write to it, or they could draw those. I could do one of the great ones is a thing called chalkboard splash, or whiteboard splash, or chart paper splash, or construction paper splash. But the idea is you give a prompt or you ask a question, and everybody immediately goes to the board and starts answering and writing their answer or doing what it is you've asked them to do.
Oh, that sounds great.
It is so much fun.
It sounds like a race.
It does, and I did this with a group of folks last year. One of the first times I tried it, I said, "Let's try this," and I just did it on a just to see what would happen. I said, "When I say go to the board and write something that you know about the life of Joseph, not Joseph the carpenter in the New Testament, Joseph in the Old Testament, a little bit more stuff to work on." And I said, "All right, think about it. Got it? Go." And everybody ran. We had pieces of paper all over the board. And it was so cool because there was indeed some duplication. But then we went back, and here's what we did with that duplication. We said, okay, let's separate these and create a timeline of Joseph's life.
Oh.
And some people had written things about the beginning of his life. Some people had written about when he was sold into slavery. Some people
knew the missing parts.
And I knew the missing parts, so I could help fill in. Yeah. And it was so much fun.
Beautiful. I love that.
But it could also be, what's a way that you could show God's love to someone? And everybody goes and writes it up. And then we can talk about, you can have the kids walk around and look at them. They could analyze them. They could decide, are there similarities? Are there differences? Here, do you see an idea that you think you'd like to try? All that kind of stuff. So chalkboard splashes and that kind of thing is really, really, really good.
Hey, I just got to throw something in with that because I am loving that idea. And that is, I've done this with my Bible drill kids. I've given them all a white solo plate, the plastic paper plates, and the erasable markers. We got them at the dollar store, and they were able to write on it quickly, show their answer, but then we could wipe it off with the tissue. So
exactly right. And that's what a quick write is. You still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what a quick write is, or a quick draw can be. You don't have to do that. You can use paper, but those are really good. And we'll talk about in just a minute about some simple kinds of things like that. Thumbs up when ready. And that's a simple technique. It's just you ask a question, let me know when you're ready to go. It doesn't have to be thumbs up, but just some signal that says, I've processed this, I've figured it out, I know what I want to say, I know what I want to do, and I'm ready to go. So it might be this, it could be touch your chin, it could be touch your nose, it could be scratch the top of your head. Doesn't matter. With older kids, similes are really fun. Now, believe it or not, a simile is like, how is a children's ministry like a garden? Okay.
How is a children's ministry like a garden? And so
how is a garden like a children's ministry? Now that's one that kind of lame and whatever, but it's just to make sure we know what we're talking about. You can ask kids to do that. You can ask them to formulate a response. How is blank like a blank? And you put that in there. Now we start talking about sin, stuff we're supposed to do, stuff God wants us to do. Similes are a great way to approach some of that because it allows kids to kind of stretch and do some thinking, and it's just really work. Ranking is a great thing to do. I've asked, you've been to conferences where they say, what are the qualities of a great teacher? And you write them down on the board. Yes, these are all the qualities of a great teacher. Well, we've all done that. Now, take it a step further. That's actually a good activity, but let's take it the next step. Rank them.
Yes. What's the best?
Now, what's the most important one of those? What's the least important? And you can do the same thing with kids. Here's some things God has said we're supposed to do. Here's the things we think we ought to do to show God's love. Here's some ways now, how do we rank those? What's the most important? What's the least important? Any kind of a list, any kind of thing, anything where you have a list, getting kids to rank them, putting them in order is a great way to help them analyze the components of the concept. So that they can actually be engaged in that kind of in a deeper kind of thought, deeper kind of thinking.
Good.
Another kind of technique that I've used is numbered heads together. Now I don't know who came up with that dumb name, but basically,
I think maybe it was me. I don't know.
It might have been you. I think it was. I think in my notes it says some guy named Mark in the Midwest.
No, go ahead. Tell us what it is.
Anyway, numbered heads together. It really is a great technique. The idea is simply this. A lot of times we'll do group work. We'll have kids in groups, or adults in groups if we're doing training or whatever. So what I'll do, what others will do is, have everybody in the group, just kind of form a group of 5 people as an example, form a group, and then number off. Everybody picks a number. All right, show me who the number 1s are, who are the number 2s, who are the number 3s, where are the number 4s, who are the number 5s. Great. All right, we need some markers. I need all the number 4s. Please stand up. Come get a marker. Well, guess what? I don't even know who all the number 4s are.
Nope.
But
they don't either.
And they don't either. So the number 4s come and do whatever it is I need. I need the number, and then the next time I need something, I say, all right, I need the number 3s to tell us what the group decided about blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I'm not calling on Mark or James or Leon. I'm calling on number 3.
Yeah.
Who are all number 3s? Stand up. Tell us what your group said. And what I'm doing is if the group has already processed something, they've talked about something, okay? I know what the answer is. We just talked about it. All I got to do is tell you what everybody said. And it's not even my answer. It's their answer. So again, it gives us some safety. It's kind of like that net that's underneath me that's going to catch me if I fall. Mm-hmm. It also allows us to kind of spread the work out and spread the responsibilities out so the more kids are doing stuff, more things.
It feels like a game among the regular agenda. And so there's always something to listen to because any moment you could say, go.
Yeah, you could. And you could say, and to be honest, I'm a little crazy. So I will sometimes say, if things are a little too dull, I will say, number 2, stand up, cluck like a chicken.
See, perfect.
Or whatever it is, or bark like a dog, or turn in a circle, or whatever it is, just to make things interesting. Kids, you just do that.
Fun.
The other thing that the last one, it's related to the thumbs up when ready, is simply to take votes, and we're going to vote on this. Here's 2 things. How many of you think it's this answer? Thumbs up. How many of you think it's that answer? Blah, blah, blah. You could do thumbs up, thumbs down. You just vote. Mm. You agree, you disagree. It's that kind of thing. Mm. Now, TPT holdups. TPT, remember, is total participation techniques. TPT holdups. Now, the idea here is this is a little bit of preparation, but it's the idea of using some kind of a response card.
Oh.
I don't have to do a lot of talking. I can hold something up. Now, with younger boys and girls, it might be a red light and a green light.
Yeah.
It might be a plate with a T and an F, true or false.
Actually, I've used a smiley face yellow plate on a paddle with a frowny face yellow plate.
Exactly. One of the ones I did one time, we were doing a thing on profits, and ahead of time, just because, again, I'm a little bit crazy, I made up a bunch of fake beards out of poster board. And they had to hold the fake beard up. If they thought it was a profit, they had to hold the fake beard in front under their nose, which was so much fun. I just had a great time.
It's almost a picture moment, too.
It really was. It's like, where's the camera? So anyway, hold-ups are really cool. They just work well. Now,
hold-ups. I love it.
Yeah, selected response hold-ups would be relevant choices. You just said smiley face, frowny face. It could be the names Joseph, or how about this? How about Saul? What's his name? David, Jonathan, Samuel.
David,
all of those. You can have the words printed out ahead of time. You hold up the right one, which of the 4 you think it is, or you can have them come up with what that is, and they could draw them themselves.
Now, I have a question and you may say this in just a minute, but and some questions that are very difficult, especially for older preteens who are trying to figure out the why in some things, the why and the how. Yeah. I have actually put a T on this wall and an F on this wall.
Yeah.
And said, true or false. What would this happen in this situation? And they're like, I don't know, maybe this far. But they had to get up and stand,
right,
in place and own it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have done that as well. And I guess it's kind of related to a holdup, really, when you think about it. I don't have to make as many. The way that I've done it, I used to do it exactly that way. And the way I started doing it was I'd put a T on 2 different walls and an F on 2 different walls. And my prompt was, you have to move to a new wall every question.
Good.
So that I can't just go to the F and stand there. I can't just go to the T and say, yeah, it's always true. So it's just a way to keep them a little more engaged.
Mhm.
True, not true holdups, by the way, or whether they're smiley faces or whatever. You can also do multiple choice. Everybody's taken multiple choice tests when you were in school, which is the answer A, B, C, or D. Well, instead of taking a test, that's no fun. What if the multiple choice question was, I've got an A, a B, a C, and a D, and I get to do it. Now, I might do that within a group, and our group comes up with an answer, or I might
That's
do it
safe.
individually. That's safe. Or I might do it individually.
And it really works well when you're talking about the uh, like when they've processed the biblical content to the application. So in
Exactly,
the
yeah.
application, what would you do if?
Mm-hmm. And really, I think a really important thing to remember too, whether you're doing true and false, when you're doing true and false, is one, ask them why.
Mm-hmm.
What caused you to go, especially if they're the only one over there.
Yeah.
Because they may be the only one over there. Ask them why. What caused you to think what makes you think that's false? Why was that your response?
Yeah.
You know what? The response may convince somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
or it may just simply be that my other phone is ringing. That's hysterical. Sorry, that's my wife. He doesn't know why I'm not home yet. I'm supposed to be home by now.
Oh.
It's okay. So, but asking, shut up, be quiet, go away. I don't want to talk to you. You didn't even remember my birthday. Okay, she did remember my birthday.
I was fixing to say, she's a smart cookie.
Anyway, it may be that, while the conventional wisdom would say, yeah, that's a true statement, this person has a really valid point, which we can affirm. And even if we don't agree with them, the fact that they're processing and thinking is so important. So asking why is really important. The other thing that you can do, of course, with true and false is always remember, I think, to have a few more false than you do true, and to ask the question, what would make this true?
Oh, good. That was good.
Yeah. You really want to give them that opportunity. Okay, that's false. Why was it false? What would you have to change about the statement to make it a true statement? What would make it true? So that's a good tool to use. And the last thing about holdups is a whiteboard holdup. And of course, you're talking about using the plastic plates.
Oh.
Great solution. I use plastic plates, but I also have the fancy ones with the handles on them, and you can wipe them off. They're great. You buy a set of them, you use them forever, and you use the wipe-off markers. But the truth is, as cool as those are, plastic plates work fine. As cool as plastic plates are, you can use a paper plate, and just use it one time and throw it away. It's a little wasteful, but hey.
Mm-hmm. I agree, though.
You can use paper. Then finally, and we're going to run out of time, I know, but the last one are TPTs, or total participation techniques involving movement. That's where the kids are going to get up and move. And I like to do lineups. And a lineup is simply two lines of kids facing each other. Okay? Think about it. We've got two lines of kids facing each other, and you have some kind of prompt or question. What's a way that you could show God's love in your neighborhood? Tell the person you're looking at a way to show God's love in your neighborhood. Think about it. Always give them a chance to think about it. Yeah. Go. Okay, go. So they tell that person. Now what do you do? Okay. Well, then one line stays still. The other line, the child at the end goes all the way around to the other end, and everybody steps down one. And you give it the same prompt or a different prompt. So now you're talking to somebody new each time.
Mm-hmm.
And you just keep doing it. Almost like speed dating, yeah. You can also, if you have enough room, you can also do it as two circles. And inside, one circle facing out and another circle facing in. And you just keep, one of the circles just keeps moving. And you just do it. The idea is that I'm talking to different kids every time, different people every time. You can do a thing called 3 in a row, which is basically like tic-tac-toe. Mm-hmm. You've been to parties or conferences where where you did some kind of a human bingo sheet where you go around and find somebody that has red hair, get their initials, find somebody, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. You can do that. And it may include some of those kinds of things just for fun, but it also can include things like find somebody who knows what happened to Joseph when he was sold into slavery or when his brothers threw him in a pit, and have them sign here.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing. So that's kind of thing. You can also do networking sessions. Now, if you have a big group of kids, if you're in a large group setting, networking sessions are kind of fun. You can have a prompt. You simply you do this verbally, or you might do a quick write. Have them write a response. give a prompt, ask a question, they write a response. Now, show your response, show your answer to 5 people. Or if you don't want to do the writing thing, tell your response to 5 people or 7 people or as many people as you can before I call time. That's just a networking session is really kind of cool.
I like that.
A real simple one. I'm gonna go to a couple more just real quickly, easy ones. Mouth it, air it, or show me using your fingers.
Okay.
So mouth it would be, I'm going to look at you and go, whatever it is. I'm going to mouth the words. It's
you
get a lot of Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. So you have them mouth the word instead of saying it out loud. You could also have them air write it. Write the letter, the first letter of the name of the person that you think did this. Write it in the air, and everybody's doing this because it's going to be Jesus, isn't it? That's all it is. And but you can air write it, or you can have them write the whole name. I
love that.
Yeah, you can also, and everybody gets to respond though.
Yeah,
everybody's engaged.
That's perfect.
You can have them show me using your fingers. How many fish was in the little boy's lunch? Show me using your fingers.
Yeah.
All right. How many loaves of bread were there?
And there's so many numbers in the Bible.
There's lots of numbers in the Bible and other things you can do. How many disciples were there? I lost one. I don't know. Oh, my ears. Okay. A lot of things like that. But show me using your fingers. It could be a square. It could be a circle. It could be a heart. Okay. You could also do acting out and role play. You can do charades. All those kinds of things are things that boys and girls can do. With older kids, you can even get into things like simulations, stuff like that. So the whole idea behind all this stuff is to find ways to get your kids to do stuff, okay, to get them involved. And a lot of them I realize are probably more focused on large group settings than small group settings. But many of these are also very usable in a small group setting. They really are.
Yes.
If you got 3 kids, you can do this. If you got 2 kids, you can do some of these.
Absolutely.
So they're good tools, they're good techniques. And again, none of them are like, I never thought of that before.
I think one of the things that is really good about what you're saying, though, is, when you're just passing that ball, that imaginary ball back and forth, it doesn't build community. But when you do this where they're engaged, you're building community, especially if they're talking to someone else. They're engaged with someone else. Yeah. And even when I've done that and said, okay, find a new partner and say, howdy, partner, and shake hands, even the moment of touch is another connection when they say howdy, partner. And it's building community even though you're still learning.
Exactly. Yeah, Jensen talks about it in terms of social engagement. Remember the 4 different kinds of engagement. He talks about social engagement. Well, you realize when you look at his 4 kinds of engagement, let's see, that's Luke 2:52, but without the God. So we're going to make sure God's in there. But social engagement really is important. And we've said this for decades.
Right.
And then we want to tell kids, now be quiet, don't talk, sit there and be still. No. If my social development is important, and it is incredibly important, it was for Jesus, it is for us, then I need to give boys and girls opportunities to talk to one another. So, for example, one of the things I do that's super simple, I just think it's really easy, but to me, it's like, why don't we do this a lot? We'll read a Bible verse. It's on the board. I've got it. We're going to learn this Bible verse. Well, what will we typically do? Well, let's all say the verse together. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, saying the verse together. But how about this? After we've said it a time or two, okay, find a partner. Say the verse to your partner. I'm doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
It's the exact same thing.
Right.
But it's not. Because now my friend and I are saying it to each other. I'm saying it to my
reframed it.
I've reframed it. I'm not saying it to the board. I'm not saying it to Mr. Hargrave. I'm not saying it to the wall. I'm saying it to my friend. And it's fun. And you'll see the grins break out all over. But I'm doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not. So, and then after I say that, then it's like, well, find somebody you haven't talked to today and say the verse to them.
Yeah.
Tell them the verse. Whisper the verse to them, or whatever it is. So it's like, instead of this kind of wall of kids, it's me and you, and we're getting some social engagement, which I really am convinced is very, very important. It's biblical. that we need to be doing this, and it works really well. And we know adults don't even have to hang around if they don't make connections at church.
Absolutely.
They're going to be gone. Kids are going to do the same thing. If they haven't made connections at church with other kids, with teachers, with other people, when they get the chance, they're going to walk out the door. They're just going to be gone. So it's just important to do stuff like that.
That's right. Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, this was good medicine. Good stuff. It makes it, you named all of the things that make teaching so much fun because you give life to your content. You're able to present it and enjoy it. So it makes learning so much more fun. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thanks for the invite. I was happy to do it.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, I hope this was a great help to you. We want to say big thank you to James Hargrave and all of the hard work and the great things he provides for us. I want to say to all of you that if you will go to iTunes and even give us a rating there, it really keeps it in front of other people that they could find the resources that would help them do well in ministry. And just remember, your life is a gift in children's ministry. So go and make it count.